UFC Fight Night Mexico turned out to be a card that was a little bit lackluster and had some shocking results. I'm going to talk about a few fights from the card because honestly, going through the entire card this time around, it was a little bit, like I said, lackluster. So I wanted to talk about a few key fights and just react to them a little bit for you guys. If you're interested in hearing my take on one particular fight, timestamps will be there if you'd like to skip to any particular fight. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's get started. I wanted to get started with Felipe de Santos versus Victor Altamirano. Now, this was an absolute robbery in my opinion. I cannot believe that Felipe de Santos was granted decision. And honestly, I can't believe that of all places, Mexico gave it to him. How many times have we seen weird decisions given to the guy in his hometown, right? And I don't even know if Victor was in his hometown, but regardless, the crowd obviously wanted Victor to win. Now, for Victor's performance, to be honest with you, he is vastly improved. Vastly improved his offensive wrestling game, and it showed. He was going for the takedowns. He was willingly going and grappling with Felipe de Santos, who definitely had the more options to win this fight. I don't know if elevation ended up coming into play because Victor absolutely gassed out in the third round. To be honest with you, I'm excusing gassing. Not that they need to prove it to me or anything like that, but you get the point. My point being is this dude is improving, and I cannot wait to see him fight again because, like I said, he's added defensive wrestling to his game. That's something that we really haven't seen because especially in the fight before that, he struggled with the wrestling. But for Felipe de Santos, man, oh my God. If it wasn't for the altitude, if that didn't have a play, this dude is completely overhyped. I still really enjoy watching him fight, though. Maybe it was a one-off performance, who knows, but a little bit disappointing from his end. He definitely didn't win the fight. Next up, I want to talk about Daniel Zellhuber. Oh my God. So he took on Francisco Prado, of course, and Prado did a really good job in the first round, really crowding Daniel Zellhuber. And honestly, it's a reason why I didn't want to bet on Daniel Zellhuber, because Daniel Zellhuber, in my opinion, was going to be the more crisp and better striker. But I was worried about the power of Prado. I was worried about that Prado could come in there and really clock him. So Daniel Zellhuber showed that he definitely has a chin, because if you're taking shots from Prado like that, looking pretty good. But not only that, he stopped in the second round, adjusted. I don't know for the life of me what he changed. He just turned it on. He turned it on. He started using his range more. He started firing that jab. That jab was doing damage. All of his shots were doing damage. He put on a striking masterclass in rounds 2 and 3 and just really picked apart Francisco Prado. And I don't even want to say picked apart. This dude destroyed Francisco Prado. After this fight, I am so much higher in Daniel Zellhuber. I still want to see him fight against a very, very strong wrestler, but man, he was looking fantastic in this fight, and I thought he was a little bit overhyped. Don't get me wrong, thought he was a great fighter, but I thought people were overhyping him a little bit, but man, perhaps I was wrong in that case. He looked good. He looked so good, and props to Prado, man. Fighting through a dogfight like that, it was very fun to watch. But now I want to talk about the main and the co-main event. Oh my God. Oh my God. I bet on both of these guys. I'm shocked. I'm completely shocked. Yair Rodriguez lost to Brian Ortega. Lost to Brian Ortega, who rolled his ankle at the beginning of the match. Lost to a Brian Ortega coming off of a 2-year layoff. I believe it was 2 years. Coming off of shoulder surgery. This dude didn't even Brian Ortega didn't even look like himself. Like, he looked like, don't get me wrong, he was in shape still, but he didn't look nearly as lean as he usually did. And Yair Rodriguez, we know what he's all about. And somehow, he was willingly engaging Brian Ortega on the ground. Why? My dad and I were watching this fight and we're like, hey, stupid. Hey, stupid. And I hate being the one to sit here and like criticize a UFC fighter. But man, come on. Like, why? Why would you go and start having the ground game with Brian Ortega? Why? For a couple ground and pound shots, Brian Ortega, you could see him locking up the arm. You could see him getting the better. And he ended up at the end of round 1 getting mount. Like, what's going on there, man? I don't get it. I don't get the fight IQ there. And in round 2, Brian Ortega was able to get to the ground. Yair Rodriguez kind of just accepted the position. I don't know. He was willing to go to the ground. It didn't make sense to me at all. And it didn't make sense to me that Brian Ortega was beating Yair Rodriguez. Especially with how that first fight went. Like, is it possible that it was the altitude? I don't know. I know all the memes now are like, Brian Ortega isn't losing in front of Tracy Cortez. Maybe that could have been something. But Brian Ortega has always been majorly tough, walking through everything. That's something that I was worried about, but I thought Yair Rodriguez was able to pick up apart for 5 rounds. It's shocking to me. I can't believe that he lost that fight. Another shocker to me, though, was Brandon Moreno losing to Brandon Royval again. Or, I mean, like, in the rematch, not, I mean, like, he lost to him again, but I can't believe Brandon Moreno lost this fight. To be honest with you, though, when this fight ended, I really did think it could have gone either way. I know people are, like, really criticizing Royval right now, like, hey, I didn't know you got awarded points for punching the air, which is kind of true. Moreno blocked a lot of shots, but at the end of the day, Brandon Royval was incredibly more active than Brandon Moreno. I cannot believe, though, Brandon Royval, and again, I hate sitting here and being the guy to criticize UFC fighters, but how could you possibly eat the same overhand the entire 5 rounds? The same overhand. Literally, all you had to do, it was in the same placement too, was do this. This is what you had to do. And you blocked that same overhand. I don't understand how you can get absolutely cranked by the same shot the entire time. I'd understand if you were gassed, if elevation was coming to play, anything of that sorts, and maybe you were in a war, maybe you were dazed. But Brandon Royval was fine. He just kept eating that same shot. I don't get it, man. But he's lucky that Brandon Moreno, they're at flyweight and he didn't have power. But Brandon Moreno honestly didn't seem like himself. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but he was a lot more inactive. He was a lot less willing to engage. A lot of people were saying that Andre Pantoja took the heart out of Brandon Moreno. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but then again, if you lost to a guy 3 times and he's the champion, are you still hungry to beat him again? I don't really know, but Brandon Moreno actually didn't really seem like himself. It didn't make sense to me, but Brandon Royval is also a really, really tough fighter. If he rematches Pantoja, I feel like it would go the same way, but Brandon Royval, man, he looked good in this fight. He was getting the better Brandon Moreno in the later rounds, and I'm not mad at the decision like some people are. I'm not, but of course, I ended up betting on Brandon Moreno and Yair Rodriguez. Thank God for my round lines because that saved the day, but I actually bet on this fight to go over 4.5 rounds, which was at plus money, which I thought was shocking. I was pretty sure that this fight would go to the distance, which, hey, you know what? I'm totally okay with that. But, man, what's the title picture going to be like now? What's going to happen here, both for the co-main and the main event? I don't even have to talk about just Brandon Moreno. Pantoja's probably going to beat them both again, although it's going to be a close fight. Do you give Amir Albazi a title shot now? Maybe. If Muhammad Mokaev wins next weekend, maybe you could fast-track him, and that's a big, big maybe. And I know Mokaev would be down for it because he wants to be the youngest champion ever. It's just, Pantoja has a combined 5 wins over them. Brandon Royval definitely doesn't deserve another title fight. Same with Brandon Moreno. I think they need at least one more win against a top contender. But for Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez, at least they have fresh blood in the division. But Brian Ortega can't strike. Yair Rodriguez can't grapple. Ilia Topuria will walk through both of them. And I mean walk through. Absolutely 100% walk through them. Holloway, I'm on Team Holloway, man. I think Holloway is a perfect stylistic matchup to beat Ilia Topuria. But other than that, who at featherweight's going to beat Ilia Topuria? And what are you going to do with Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega now? Who are they going to fight? Like, it's crazy to me. I think Movsar Evloev should be given the title shot at this point, especially with how the division's going. I would like to see maybe Arnold Allen versus Yair Rodriguez. I don't know who you give Brian Ortega, to be honest with you. You don't do a Volk rematch. Volk will probably sit out and wait for a title fight, but Brian Ortega should probably fight somebody a little bit down in the division, but it's crazy to me how this guy can sit on his ranking, come back and win like that. I don't know. Brian Ortega is a great, like, I don't want to say he's a great fighter technically, but the dude is so tough. He belongs at the top. He definitely deserves the ranking that he has, but for squatting on it that long, I would have taken it away from him, but he definitely came back, deserved that he still proves to be at the top of the division. I think you have to give both Amir and Movsar title fights at this point. I don't want to see Ilia go up in the division and fight Islam Makhachev. I don't want to see that. He needs to clear out his division first. It's just going to be interesting to see how things break out. So, guys, let me know what you think about this. Speaking of breaking things down, I don't know if it's out yet, actually, but maybe there's a full card breakdown video for you to watch right here. If not, there's a MMA video for you to check out. Thank you so much for coming, guys. Take care.